Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video. Disclaimer: none of the events mentioned are true. No idol is being harmed in the video, and any idol doesn't have any type of negative roles. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and comment, please. Let's start our video. Her chest tightened. She looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. I never asked for his care. I only wished for ours, for yours. The honesty in her words might have pierced another man's heart, but Jungkook remained wrapped in ice. He scoffed, his lips curling. Wishing will not change reality. She swallowed hard, her vision burning. She had no strength to argue, no strength to defend herself. The fire in his eyes had already judged her guilty. So she sat in silence, tears swelling but unshed, and ate slowly, as though the act itself was punishment. Across the table, Jungkook watched her, his jaw tight, though he masked it with coldness. The sight of her quiet sorrow pricked at something deep inside him. Her fragility, her silence, her unspoken pain, they all tugged at a part of him he wanted to kill. But pride would not let him reach for her. Pride would not let him bend, and so he remained silent, watching as the woman he once might have cherished down in tears and pretended not to see. That night, when he lay alone in his room, he closed his eyes and tried to summon help. But instead of dreams, he heard the echo of her voice, soft, trembling, and filled with a longing that twisted the knife inside his chest. I only wished for yours. He buried his face in his hands, the burning fire of jealousy giving way to something heavier, something he could not yet admit was guilt. And down the hall, Minnie wept again. Silent tears falling into darkness, unseen by the man whose heart she still prayed might one day soften. The tension in the house had grown so thick that even the servants walked on eggshells. Every corner seemed filled with Jungkook's brooding presence, his dark eyes watching, calculating, never softening. He had grown colder since Jamin began showing kindness to Minnie, and though he told himself it was nothing, the storm inside him raged louder with each passing day. One evening, the silence finally cracked. Jungkook stood in his study, the shadow swallowing his sharp frame. When the door cracked open, Jamin entered. His expression calm, but his posture firm. The air between them felt heavy, like two storms colliding. You need to stay away from her. Jungkook's voice cut like steel, low and dangerous. His eyes bored into his younger brother, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Whatever sympathy you think she deserves, it ends now. She is my wife. You will keep your distance. Jamin didn't flinch. His lips curved into the faintest trace of defiance. Though his voice his voice was steady. She's your wife, Young, but you treat her like she's invisible. You punish her for sins that were never hers. I won't stand by and watch her suffer just because you're too blind by hate. Jungkook's hand clenched at his side, his chest rising and falling like he was restraining himself from lunging forward. You dare lecture me about her? You have been here for what? Weeks? I have lived with her lives every single day. You don't know what her family did to ours. Jamie took a step closer, unwavering. I know what she has done. Nothing. She cooks, she cleans, she stays quiet when you humiliate her. She doesn't complain, doesn't fight back, and yet she endures it with all tears she hides from you. If showing her kindness make me your enemy, then so be it. I won't stop treating her like a sister because that's what she is to me. The word struck Jungkook harder than he wanted to admit. His jaw tightened, his eyes flashing with a dangerous light. But Jamin didn't say to witness the storm brewing in his brother's chest. He bowed his head slightly, then walked away, leaving Jungkook alone in the suffocating silence of his fury. The night of the annual festival arrived, the city outside their mansion glowing with lanterns and laughter. Fireworks cracked the sky, music floated through the streets, and for once the world outside seemed alive with joy, happiness, and the new start of their lives. Minnie stood by the window of her room, gazing longingly at the light she could only watch from afar. Her face was pale, her hands folded in her lap, and though she said nothing, her heart ached with a yearning for even the simplest happiness. A gentle knock at her door startled her. When she opened it, James stood there with a warm smile. "Come with me," he said softly. "Just for tonight. You deserve to see the world outside these walls." Minnie hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. If Jungkook finds out, he doesn't have to. Jamin interrupted gently. "I will bring you back before he notices. You have suffered enough, Nuna. Let me give you one night of peace." Something in his words melted her hesitation against her better judgment. She followed him, her heart pounding, as they slipped out of the mansion into the bustling city. The streets were alive with colors and scents, children running with sparklers, couples laughing under strings of lanterns. May's eyes lit up for the first time in months. She clenched her shawl tightly, a small smile spreading across her lips as she looked around. Jamin watched her quietly, satisfied that he had managed to put the spark back in her eyes, if only for a moment. They stopped by a stall selling roasted chestnuts, and Jamin bought some, handing them to her like a child offering some candy. She laughed softly, the sound fragile but genuine. Then, when they reached a quiet corner by the river, where lanterns floated across the water, he handed her a small paper lantern. "Make a wish, Nuna," he said gently. Her eyes misted over. She whispered a silent prayer for strength, for love, for Jungkook's heart to one day soften. Before releasing the lantern into the night sky, it drifted upward, glowing against the darkness. What she didn't know that was that Jungkook was there, hidden in the shadows, following them like a predator stalking prey. He had left the mansion earlier, suspicion growling at him, and what he saw now set his blood on fire. His wife laughing softly beside his brother, smiling at him as though he were the one she belonged to. His fist tightened until his nail cut into his palms. Every soft laugh that escaped her lips felt like betrayal. Every glance she gave Jamin burned into chest like poison. He stayed silent, watching them until his rage could no longer be contained. The explosion came later that night. When Minnie returned to the mansion, Jungkook was waiting in their room, his body rigid, eyes dark with fury. She froze when she saw him, her shawl still around her shoulders, her cheeks flushed from the cool night air. "Where were you?" His voice was dangerously calm, each syllable like the crack of a whip. Minnie opened her mouth, but no words came. She glanced down, guilt painting her silence, even though her heart had been pure. With him, wasn't it? Jungkook's voice rose, his anger finally spilling over, laughing, smiling, while I sat there thinking of my father's ruined life. You? He took a step closer, his chest heaving. You dare betray me with my own brother? Her heart snapped up, eyes wide with disbelief. No, Jungkook, it wasn't like that. I would never. Then what was it? He thundered. Why were you out there with him? Why were you smiling at him the way you never smile at me? Tears welled in her eyes, streaming down her face as she shook her head. Because you never gave me a reason to smile. You treat me like a stranger, like a burden you forced to carry. Jamie treats me like a human being, like family. But you, her voice cracked, her pain pouring out at last. You treat me like I am nothing. Jungkook breath caught, but his pride pushed back the sting in his chest. So you admit it. You prefer him to me. Her tears fell harder, but her voice trembled with raw honesty. I don't want him. Yet his anger, his pride, and his unhealed wound refused to let him soften. His fist shook, his jaw clenched, and though her words lingered in his chest like fire, he turned away, unable to force the storm inside him. Minnie sank to her knees, broken, her tears soaking the floor as the echoes of love hung heavy in the air. Minnie stood. Jungkook stood with his back to her, staring into the shadows, fighting a war between the vengeance that consumed him and the love he was too afraid to acknowledge. The night was heavy with silence, the kind that pressed against Jungkook's chest and made every breath feel like a burden. He had just turned from another long day at the company, a day filled with decisions that never seemed to end, with numbers and contracts that tried to drown out the chores of his personal life. Yet, as he walked into the dimly lit study of his father, the room he had avoided for months, his eyes fell on something that stopped in his tracks. An old chest sat tucked into the corner, its edges worn with time, the lock half broken as though no one had carried it for years. He had meant to have it cleared out, but some instinct told him to open it now. Kneeling before it, Junko lifted the lid, the creak echoing the silence of the room. Inside were filled documents, photographs yellowing at the edges, and envelopes tied together with a ribbon his mother used to favor. With hesitant fingers, he pulled out one envelope, the paper brittle, the ink smudged from age. Across the front, in his mother's graceful handwriting, were the words, "For my son, when the time is right." Jungkook's chest tightened, his hand shook slightly as he tore it open, pulling out the letter within. His mother's words unfolded before him, delicate and yet cutting deep into his soul. My dear Jungkook, if you are reading this, it means you have grown into a man who must learn truth. I could not tell you earlier. Your father's downfall was not only the fault of Minnie's family. Yes, there were mistakes, greed, and betrayal on their side. But there was also decisions your father made, risks he took, and enemies he underestimated. To blame one family alone is blind yourself to the full story. Do not let hatred consume you, my son. One day you may meet someone from their bloodline who is innocent of the past, someone who carries no blame for the sins of their elders. If you do, I beg you, do not punish them for what they never choose. Find love where I could not. Do not repeat our mistakes. The word blood as Jungkook are clouded with something he refused to call tears. His mother's voice echoed in his mind, soft but unrelenting, cutting to the layers of rage and bitterness he had built around himself. For the first time, doubt crept in like a thief into his heart. Had he been wrong all along? He leaned back against the chair, the letter trembling in his grip. Memories of his father's illness, the crumbling of the business, the nights he spent comforting his mother, all of it had built the narrative that May's family had destroyed them. But the letter whispered a truth far more complicated. It didn't absolve her family completely, but it shattered the certainty he had clung to. And with that uncertainty came guilt. That night, as Jungkook lay awake in the darkness of their room, his gaze drifted into the fragile figure lying on the other side of the bed. Minnie slept curled in on herself, her breath softening, her face pale even in slumber. He found himself studying her features, the delicate curve of her lips, the faint shadow beneath her eyes, the way her fingers gripped the blanket like she was afraid it would be taken from her against his will. All the memories surfaced in his mind. He remembered the early days of their courtship before the wedding and before betrayal poisoned his mind. He remembered how shy she had been, how her cheeks flushed whenever he caught her staring at him. He remembered walking with her in garden, how she tripped once and laughed, brushing it off with a grace that had charmed him. There had been nights when she had looked at him as though He was the only person in the world, eyes glowing with trust and love so pure it had scared him. He had promised himself that then he would protect that look, that he would give her reasons to smile every day. And now that memory mocked him, because the same girl who once glowed with love now shrank in his presence, hiding her tears, hiding her pain, because he, the man who had once wanted to shield her, had become the very storm she needed protection from. Jungkook closed his eyes, his chest tightening painfully. For the first time in months, the anger did not burn as fiercely. Instead, a yellow edge spread through him, an edge he did not know how to silence. The next morning, the mansion stirred with quiet activity. The servant bustled about preparing breakfast. Jamin was at the state offices, and Minnie moved slowly through the hallways. Her steps was unsteady, that she was barely walking on her feet. But halfway down the corridor, her knees buckled. She clutched the wall for balance, her breath coming shallow, her face pale. The Brooklyn cups rattled dangerously on the tray, threatening to spill. Jungkook, stepping out of the study just then, froze at the sight. For a moment, instinct overtook pride. He rushed forward, his hands shooting out to steady the tray before it crashed to the ground. His other arm slipped around her waist, keeping her upright. Careful, he murmured, almost without realizing. His voice, usually sharp, came out low and steady. Minnie's eyes widened at the unexpected contact. She glanced up at him, searching his face for the cruelty she had come to expect, but instead she found something unreadable in his gaze. For a second, it was not thought the man she once knew had returned, but then, as quick as it appeared, the moment was gone. Jungkook set the tray down on a nearby table, his hands withdrawing as though burned. He said nothing more, only giving her a long, unreadable look before stepping back. Minnie's lips parted, wanted to say something, anything to hold to the fleeting softness, but no words came. She lowered her eyes instead, whispering a quiet thank you that barely reached his ears. Jungkook heard it, felt it, and though he gave no reply, though his face returned to its usual mask of indifference, inside him the words echoed. It was the closest thing to an apology he had given her, the silent act of helping her when she needed it most. And though he could not say it aloud, though his pride chained his tongue, a part of him whispered that he refused to admit, I am sorry. That night, Minnie slept once again on the far side of the bed. Jungkook lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His brother's letter rested on the desk across the room. It stood still, burning into him. The memory of Minnie's smile from the courtship haunted him, and the feel of her frail body leaning against his arm earlier lingered in her skin. A reminder of how much she had endured in silence. For the first time since their wedding night, Jungkook heart weird with itself, not with anger, but with guilt, with regret, and with something far more dangerous. Something that felt a lot like love trying to claw its way back to life. The rain came without warning, a sudden torrent that lashed against the windows of the mansion and turned the gardens into rivers of mud. The thunder looked like beast, and lightning tore through the darkened sky, illuminating the heavy silence inside the grand house, the grand mansion, and the grand garden that was located in that mansion. Minnie sat by the window of her room, watching the rain beat down, her hands pressed gently against her stomach. The words still rang into her eyes. She needed rest, proper meals, and peace of mind for the child growing inside her. Yet rest never came so easily in this house. The weight of Jungkook's disdain passed on her constantly, and though he had softened in fleeting moments, those cracks in his armor never lasted long enough for her to breathe freely. When the rain grew heavier, a memory stirred in her chest. Childhood days when storm meant laughter, when she would run barefoot outside, her arms or chest to the sky. It had been years since she had left rain to her skin. The thought of it, simple and pure, tugged at her heart without thinking. She rose and stepped quietly into the hallway. The servants were occupied closing shutters, and no one noticed when Minnie slipped out the back door into the courtyard. The rain drenched her instantly, plastering her hair against her face, soaking her thin clothes until they clung to her fragile frame. She tilted her head back, eyes closing, arms open wide. For a brief moment she felt free, free of existence, free of loneliness, free of chains that bound her heart. But her body was weak, too weak. Within minutes her legs gave way, and she stumbled, collapsing against the slick stone steps. Hope you guys like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and for videos like these, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to my channel. And you guys are not liking and commenting under my videos, so please give me some encouragement so that I will make more videos like this. So that's it for bye bye. See you soon, all of you. Bye bye.